A large group of homelessness that isn't talked about as much as it should be is youth homelessness. There is an organization that helps children experiencing homelessness that is located in Elk River.
I would say for youth, because that's the age range that we work with. So we work with youth ages 16 to 24. So I would say one of the biggest stigmas about that age range is that they are bad kids that got kicked out because they were behaving badly. Um, and usually they leave their home because they don't feel safe there and they find themselves in the situation that they're in due to other people's actions rather than their own. So circumstances beyond their control.
I think one of the biggest stigmas is that they're lazy and they just don't want to get a job. A lot of times there's life circumstances that get in the way, and a lot of times it's families and young children that can't get their own job.
Other than giving food and clothes, there are many other ways to help those in need.
I would say the biggest way that people can help in our community is to be open minded about the issues around youth experiencing homelessness, and to kind of be willing to hear about the unique challenges that they face, especially in rural communities, and to continue to talk about it and raise awareness and be informed and educated about issues around homelessness.
Young people who become homeless are depicted in the media in various different ways. One of those ways is coming from families of violence and abuse.
I would say again for youth experiencing homelessness, some of the main or the most common reasons that they find themselves in the situation that they're in is a lot of different kinds of abuse in the home, like verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, substance use disorders. And so a lot of times they feel like they need to leave for their own safety, and it's not safe for them to stay in their own home. So that's a big reason. A lot of the youth age out of foster care, so at age 18 they can leave, um, and so they do that because sometimes the foster care situation isn't really meeting their needs, and so they think they're better off on their own, but they often find that they lack the skills and the finances to live on their own. So aging out of foster care. Um, Oftentimes, if a youth identifies as LGBTQ plus, their family kicks them out. They're not accepting of who they are and how they identify. So they find themselves, out on the streets pretty much because of who they are as a person. Um, and generational poverty, a lot of times families from generation to generation really struggle and are living in poverty. And so sometimes if a young person is the oldest in the family and they're 18 or older, sometimes they leave or they're asked to leave to support themselves because the family just is in abject poverty most of the time. So I'd say those are the main reasons. There's lots of different reasons, but those are kind of the top ones.
Being or becoming homeless can happen to anyone, so that's why it's important to appreciate everything you have and never take anything for granted.
Young person who came to us early on, I would say in about 2017, and they were living in a tent in a campground. They had left their family home because of lots of different kinds of abuse going on in the home, and they definitely were not safe in that situation. So when they came to us, they were living in a tent in a campground with their partner at the time. And eventually it got cold, so they moved into a car, which was a little bit better, but still homeless. And so we worked with this young person, trying to help them find some stability, think about some housing resources, and just fulfilling their basic needs. And then we lost touch with them, which often happens with the youth that we work with. They move somewhere else, they find a relative to live with in a different city or even in a different state. And so we lost touch with this young person for about a year. And then they came back to the Elk River community. And at that time, they had a child with them at that time. And we really witnessed a huge transformation with this young person. When they returned, they were really determined to change their life for themselves and for their young child. And so they went back to school to get their GED. This is, a young adult now. I think probably they were about 20. So a tough thing to go back into high school. You already have a child. You've done a lot of adult things in your life, but they were very determined. So they went back and got their GED. Did some college classes. Met another partner who was kinder to them and supportive. And so this young person was very determined to change the trajectory of their life and the life of their young child.
Being homeless can be very traumatic and is something people never forget about.
For young people, that experience of homelessness doesn't ever really leave them. So they might really change their situation and find so much more stability and housing and supportive relationships. But the experience of being homeless never really leaves you. And so there's a lot of trauma that goes along with that. So sometimes that kind of resurfaces.
I guess I would just like to say that it's okay if you're struggling with homelessness. It doesn't make you a bad person, and it doesn't make any of these stigmas right. So make sure that you're reaching out, and it's just really important that you feel like you're supported because we're here for you.
If you or someone you know is experiencing homelessness, you're not alone. Please reach out. There are various organizations that have made it their mission to help you get the help you need. This has been Belle and Aaron, Noise News.